Something is wrong with Paula's Choice. In the last few years, they've been a bit different. I'm worried about them. So far in this Behind the Beauty series, we've explored brands that have caused drama and controversy, like Drunk Elephant's infamous burner accounts, remember those? Sunday Riley writing fake reviews on Sephora. It's clear that the beauty world has its messy sides, right? Even skincare. And one thing we've noticed in the comments, because we've discussed this, is that when a huge conglomerate like L'Oreal or Estee Lauder get involved, things tend to go downhill and long-term fans of the brand get angry. And unfortunately for today's brand, it doesn't seem like their story is any different. But Paula's Choice isn't just your average skincare company. It's a pioneer in transparency, science-led formulations, which we love, and no nonsense advice. But is that still true today? While many brands rely on misleading marketing, Paula's Choice have built their brand on brutal honesty and unwavering ethics. Despite the need for clean beauty, the money they can make from clean beauty, teenagers using skincare, they've stuck to their guns until now. But that doesn't mean they haven't had any controversies either of their own, from the founder shaming unethical competitors to lies about ingredients and even a class action lawsuit. Today, let's talk about whether the reputation that Paula's Choice has built is actually deserved. And today I'm featuring one of my favorite creators, Sam, aka Sam by the Counter, who, whilst I was working on this video, posted an amazing video about the odd changes that we're all starting to see in Paula's Choice's marketing and the way they talk about their products, which I do want to discuss today. But his video just hit all the points, a load of points that I wanted to make as well, but he has done it in a much better way. So I will be sprinkling, with his permission, parts of his video throughout my video. And if you like this kind of content, you should definitely check out his content. All his social media will be linked in the comments down below, in the description and as a pinned comment. Chapter 1. Who is Paula? The origins of Paula's Choice goes back a long way, all the way back to when a young Paula Begoun, the founder of Paula's Choice, was suffering from eczema, rosacea, and acne. And she was tired. She was tired of struggling with her skin issues and frustrated by the ineffective products that were on the market. So she started researching to fix her skin. Little did she know this would be the start of a decades-long even, career in the skincare industry. In a recent article for The Sun, Paula said, "Frustrated, I delved into scientific research on skin and ingredients. Eventually, my constant discomfort and disappointment fueled my passion to write books about what I learned, and then eventually led me to create my Paula's Choice products." While studying science at university, she got a job as a makeup artist at a cosmetics counter in a department store to basically help pay for education. But she ended up being fired from that job because she was unwilling to lie to customers about the effectiveness of certain products. Good on her. So instead of misleading customers and making claims about products which she knew to be untrue, Paula would always tell them the truth, even if it cost her the sale, her commission. She didn't care. And obviously this didn't go down well with her managers at all, but this dedication to honesty when it came to skincare, it would soon become what her entire reputation was built on, and Paula's Choice as a brand. Speaking in an interview with Glow Journal about being fired, Paula said, "That's really when I started obsessively looking at physiology, chemistry, and biology journals just to understand what worked and what didn't. That became my passion, to not have any woman go through what I went through, and to make it so the cosmetics industry stopped making bad products, stopped lying, stopped misleading." And the early 80s would be a very busy time for Paula. After finishing college, she moved to Seattle and opened 2 cosmetic stores in 1981 before getting a job as an investigative journalist for KIRO TV in 1982, where she began reporting on the beauty industry. And as she continued to learn more about the industry, learn more about the shady practices and the going-ons and the regular lies told by many beauty companies at the time, her growing dissatisfaction with the beauty industry led her to write her first book, Blue Eyeshadow Should Be Illegal, which I think is an amazing title, seen as at the time everyone was wearing red lips and blue eyeshadow. But in this book, she gave advice on how to apply makeup correctly, as well as explaining to the readers how the science of makeup and skincare really worked so that they could make informed decisions when it came to their purchases. The book was an instant hit, of course, gaining national attention and even getting her an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. It was during her appearance on the show that Oprah gave her the nickname the Cosmetics Cop, and this nickname would stick stick with her as she continued to call out cosmetic companies on a regular basis. Shortly after this, Paula began writing a regular newspaper column, Dear Paula. And in this column, she answered readers' questions about various beauty products and hacks, and she began to receive so many letters asking for information about specific products that she was inspired to write her book, Don't Go to the Cosmetics Counter Without Me. She's really good at writing these books, like these titles are clever. And in this book, she would critique beauty products based on their ingredients list and was released in 1991. Now, you may think, we don't do that, we don't judge products by their ingredient list. But with foreshadowing, this doesn't upset me all that much because Paula's Choice actually run one of the very few half-decent ingredient list checkers where they don't fearmonger. So this book wasn't going to be Yucca, this book wasn't going to be the EWG or Think Dirty, this was going to be science-based. Still not the best thing to do, but there was no fear-mongering here from what I can gather. But by this point, Paula had established herself as a respected and popular name in the cosmetics world, and many consumers trusted her to tell them what they should look for in a product, what actually worked, what was overhyped or what was downright bullshit, and what was worth spending your money on. And it was around this time that she started working on developing her own line of cosmetics and skincare products. She felt that there was a gap in the market for products based on peer-reviewed scientific research, and she was probably one of the only people at the time who could fill that gap. She said, I didn't want to write any more books on skincare and makeup, and I knew I could take everything I'd learned and put that into creating truly effective formulas that could live up to their claims. Chapter 2, Founding Paula's Choice. So in 1995, after years of learning about the industry, investigating what ingredients worked and what didn't, as well as several years of working with cosmetic chemists to develop her own formulas, Paula's Choice was officially launched. And of course, the brand was built on a foundation of transparency, scientific research, and consumer education. After years of hearing beauty consumers complain that they struggled to find products which basically just worked, were irritant-free, Paula decided that she would skip what people considered common irritants like alcohols, essential oils, fragrances, dyes, and so on. So essentially, she just wanted the whole range to be irritant-free, and not in a way that like, oh, we're clean. She just didn't want any chance of any irritation for anyone. She wanted this brand to be universal. And from its inception, Paula's Choice also made a point of listing every ingredient in their products and explaining their purpose. This was a direct challenge to many beauty brands that were very vague or purposely misleading about their formulations. It's very commonplace nowadays, but it really wasn't at the time. And this, along with many of the other main principles which Paula's Choice claimed to follow, made them a very popular brand right from the start. In addition to promising more effective, science-led, non-irritating products, Paula's Choice also promised to never test on animals, and the brand continued Paula's campaign to educate consumers by writing a lot of articles, reviews, and guides on the company website. These values and principles aligned well with growing consumer demand for ethical products. And another factor which was key to the brand's early success was that it was also one of the very first beauty brands to sell products directly to consumers online, which sounds like very normal nowadays, but at the time that was fairly new and an innovative concept which matched well with the brand's focus on science-backed formulas and helped reinforce the reputation of Paula's Choice as a brand that wasn't afraid to be different. Unsurprisingly, the very early products were an instant hit with a lot of consumers who had begun to trust Paula's opinion over the years, and the brand's popularity meant that within the space of just 2 years, they had already successfully launched in Australia, taking the brand international for the first time. And over the next 5 years, Paula's Choice began to establish a cult following for itself, especially with beauty insiders who started to regard the brand as almost like a hidden secret of the beauty world. Their effective, affordable, irritant-free products were exactly what a lot of people had been looking for at the time. And this became very clear, particularly evident when they pretty much struck gold with their skin-perfecting 2% BHA liquid exfoliant in the year 2000. And this is still, not even arguably, this is without a doubt still the brand's most iconic product, probably their most popular and most viral. And the formula has barely changed since it was created nearly 25 years ago. The Skin Perfecting 2% BHA liquid exfoliant was one of the industry's first leave-on exfoliants, and it was seen as a game changer all over the world. Obviously, with salicylic acid being known for its effectiveness at reducing blackheads, decongesting pores, and smoothing skin texture, with so many many beauty fans swearing by this product. It's no wonder that this became a global bestseller for the brand. And that was all the way back in 2000. However, this is the product that is arguably largely responsible for the recent explosion of popularity for Paula's Choice, especially on TikTok, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. After this success, the brand continued to go from strength to strength, further establishing themselves in the beauty world and expanding their reach as a brand. And in 2005, they launched in Europe, and in 2008, they expanded to Asia as well. And it's worth noting that at this point, they were still an online direct-to-consumer business only. They still hadn't been stocked in any physical retail space where consumers could come in and see their products on the shelves. Again, relatively unheard of at the time. Chapter 3: Private Equity Investment. So after expanding the brand's reach globally, Paula really wanted to capitalize on her brand's growing popularity and take Paula's Choice to the next level. And in order to do this, she accepted a deal to bring the brand's first major investors, Bertram Capital. Bertram Capital invested $70 million in the company, and the new partnership also gave Paula's Choice access to investors' in-house technology team, Bertram Labs, and this helped the brand improve their digital marketing, e-commerce, analytics, and many other aspects of their online presence, which they weren't struggling with. They were doing pretty well, so this was only going to take them to that next level. And at this point, Paula did, rightfully so and deservingly so, take a step back from running the company. She would continue being the face of the brand, but she would no longer be involved in the formulation of new products or directly in control of the direction that the brand would take from here. And many kind of see this as the start of the brand moving away from Paula's founding principles and the overall decline in quality and integrity. And that's probably a fair assessment, to be fair, but their partnership with Bertram Capital had a lot of positives, along with some negatives that would continue to grow as time went on. It was during this time that they actually launched a lot of their more popular products, including their clinical 1% retinol treatment, their C15 Super Booster, and the Resist a Barrier Repair Moisturizer. And they actually opened their first brick and mortar retail spaces during this time too, when they reached an agreement with Pharmaca Integrative Pharmacies to sell Paula's Choice products in a physical store for the very first time. And this deal was an important step towards raising visibility for the brand and gave the consumers a chance to see the products on shelves and test them out before buying. But for some, the positives didn't really outweigh the negatives. Up until the partnership with Bertram, Paula had made a point to keep the prices of her products reasonable, let's say, similar to products you might find at a drugstore, not super cheap, but definitely not expensive either. And I do feel like this is one of those brands where people, no matter what their income were happy to pay the price for that product because of how the products performed. It was that one product that back in the day, before this influx of so many products, you'd have that one product that you would invest in. And for so many people, that was a product from Paula's Choice. However, prices were significantly increased after the investment, and Paula's Choice kind of started to lose their reputation of being well priced for the amazing formula you were getting, if that makes sense. Like a lot of people like, this is a really good price for such an amazing product. And now they kind of have a reputation of being like, yeah, these products are kind of pricey. They're good, but they're kind of pricey. And this loss of reputation and almost loss of integrity just got worse when 4 years later, the brand took on investment of $275 million from another private equity firm, TA Associates. And this deal made TA Associates the majority shareholders in the brand, meaning they were effectively in charge now. And like with the previous investors, there were some positives and negatives to come from this deal. Under TA Associates, Paula's Choice went from generating $70 million in sales in 2016 to generating sales of over $300 million just 5 years later in 2021. They also became one of the largest direct-to-customer beauty brands in the world, with their sales raising consistently at a time when skincare sales across the world industry were on the decline. And one of the most notable successes during TA Associates, sorry, I got itch here, during TA Associates ruling, let's say, was negotiating a deal for Paula's Choice to be stocked by Sephora. They originally launched just on Sephora Online in February of 2021 before rolling out a selection of what they considered their 6 hero products to all 455 Sephora stores in April in the US of that year. This was a huge move for Paula's Choice, and the launch was, unsurprisingly, as we know, a massive success for the brand. They soon became one of the top-selling, top-performing skincare brands at Sephora. And of course, Sephora's huge reach only increased the brand's visibility to a level that they just hadn't seen before. But TA Associates also moved the brand even further away from the ethics and the principles that the brand was founded on. Under the new majority stakeholders, Paula's Choice started launching a ridiculous number of products at a rapid rate. This meant that the quality of products was inevitably going to get worse, and also went against Paula's philosophy of less is more when it comes to skincare. One huge controversy at the time, and I remember this, was the launch of an eye cream to their lineup. This might not seem like a big deal, right? Every skincare brand has an eye cream. But as Sam by the Counter pointed out in a recent video, Paula was known for saying eye creams were a waste of money and that they were just expensive moisturizers.
The downwards trajectory of Paula's Choice actually started a little while ago. It seemed like the brand started to release products that maybe previously in Paula's reviews, they would have negative, marks or negative scores. And they even started to release products that they used to claim were a waste of money.
The continued increase in price for Paula's Choice products is also something that Sam pointed out in his video as an example of the brand moving away from Paula's original vision for the brand.
Start off with something more obvious, price points, but I feel like Paula's Choice was always a relatively accessible brand. They were kind of positioned as the Robin Hood of the skincare world, but then all of a sudden they're releasing $59 peptide boosters, which only come in like 20 ml bottles of product. And that's not even this like typical standard 30 mils that you'd expect in a serum. And more recently, they've got $68 retinoid serums. Like that's more than different. That's more than actual drug product. To me, this price point is way beyond where Paula's Choice would or should sit in the market. And I feel like it's beyond what they initially promised. I can't even see how the existing Paula's Choice customer base would be happy with where these price points are going.
As Sam mentioned in his video, they haven't only just increased their prices, they've actually almost doubled in price since the first private investors came back in 2012. But at the same time, they also shrunk the sizes of their products. So you're now paying almost twice as much for less product. I mean, there's inflation, and then there's inflation, whatever Paula's Choice are doing. The brand had pretty much entirely moved away from their foundations and were now using the exact same shady practices that Paula had called out brands for over the previous decades. But things are about to get even worse for longtime fans of the brand. Fans who had bought into what the brand stood for when Paula had first launched it. Chapter 4, Sale to Unilever. In August of 2021, just a few months after their launch in Sephora, Paula's Choice was acquired by Unilever for an estimated $2 billion. Some saw this as a reason to celebrate. After all, Unilever's resources could help take Paula's Choice to another level in terms of distribution and marketing, but to many of the brand's fans, it was another major blow to the reputation of the integrity that Paula's Choice had claimed to embody. Speaking about the deal, Paula herself said, "I am so excited that Unilever and Paula's Choice are joining forces. I want to thank the Unilever team for believing in us, our mission, and our values. With Unilever, we can build on our work and vision spanning 26 years of creating brilliant products and by giving people the self-confidence that comes from knowing that they are taking the best care of their skin possible." Paula seemed to be convincing herself that the Unilever takeover somehow wouldn't compromise the core brand values at Paula's Choice, ignoring the fact that Unilever have a terrible ethical track record that directly opposes many of the foundational philosophies Paula's Choice was built on. And this seemed to be the company line when it came to the acquisition. Tara Posley, the CEO of Paula's Choice at the time, said, "Similar to our experience with TA over the past 5 years, we are confident that Unilever will be an ideal growth partner. Like Paula's Choice, Unilever is a product and R&D driven company with values centered on empowerment, customer education, inclusion, and sustainability. I am thrilled to be part of this next phase of our journey following the growth we achieved under TA's ownership and guidance." So those in charge of Paula's Choice at the time had apparently decided to completely ignore the fact that Unilever had come under fire for an almost never-ending list of ethical breaches. They've been accused by Greenpeace of causing deforestation in Indonesia, been fined 104 million euros for price fixing in Europe, and been accused of allowing farm animals in their various companies to be mistreated. And more recently, they faced calls for a boycott over their decision to continue operating in Russia, despite despite the country's invasion of Ukraine, as well as coming under fire from Greenpeace again, who claims that Unilever sells 1,700 highly polluted plastic sachets every single second, despite previously pledging to move away from single-use plastics. But the money was apparently too tempting for the leaders of Paula's Choice to turn down. The deal certainly showed just how far Paula's Choice had come, growing from a small independent brand financed by Paula's book sales to becoming the largest direct-to-consumer skincare brand in the world, with a value in the billions. It's a huge and honestly impressive achievement, but for many fans of the brand, the cost of this success wasn't worth the price at all. Paula's Choice was clearly no longer a brand based on customer empowerment, transparency, and integrity, despite claims to the contrary. Unilever was not known as an ethical brand at the time, and certainly isn't known as one today, and this just seemed to many like another step in the brand's transition from an innovative disruptor in the industry created as an antidote to an unethical skincare industry to yet another corporate brand more worried about profit margins than product quality or business ethics. Many fans who supported Paula's Choice in part because of the brand's stance on animal cruelty were also understandably outraged by the sale. Given that Unilever were well known to engage in animal testing, that didn't sit well for many who had previously respected Paula's Choice for taking a strong stance against any animal cruelty. In fact, this very topic led to a major issue for the brand recently, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And under Unilever, the brand's marketing practices also deteriorated even further. After Paula built her reputation on her willingness to call out beauty brands for their lies and bullshit and misleading claims about what their products were capable of, it's kind of shocking to many that Paula's Choice is now one of the worst when it comes to making misleading claims and generally engaging in questionable marketing strategies. In fact, Sam also pointed this out in his video that Paula's Choice recently outright lied about the ingredients in one of their products.
But beyond this vague marketing, on Space NK, which is one of the UK's largest beauty retailers, they've actually straight up lied. For their new retinoid product, in the description, they claim that their product contains adapalene. Adapalene is a drug treatment, and their product absolutely does not contain adapalene, so this is just a straight up lie. Instead, they use a cosmetic derivative called adapanoid, but these things work very differently, and there's no sense of proper comparison between adapanoid and adapalene. I'm fairly sure this claim is illegal. I can't see how it wouldn't be considered false advertising, and I would hope it's more just a mistake of some miscommunication between Space NK and Paula's Choice. They're telling customers to ditch their own prescription. I can't fathom any brand in the world, let alone Paula's Choice, telling people to stop using their prescriptions. Paula's Choice is selling a cosmetic retinoid that has absolutely no clinical standing within the context of a medical situation. It is entirely irrelevant.
Chapter 5: Where they stand today. Despite all the backlash received over Unilever buying Paula's Choice, the brand seems to be having another moment in recent years, reaching levels of visibility and popularity that it perhaps hadn't achieved before. They're all over TikTok. The brand seems to be going all out to replace the customers it lost in recent years by going all out on social media in an attempt to draw in a younger audience. And it does seem to be working for them. I don't love it though. Again, I'll talk about that in a minute. Previously having been a brand that most likely appealed to Gen X and millennials, Paula's Choice now has a massively, rapidly growing consumer base amongst Gen Z after investing heavily in marketing on TikTok and Reddit. But what's funny to me is that they're still marketing themselves as a brand built on transparency, education, and most of all, being truthful with their consumers. Those who have followed Paula's Choice since the start know that those days are long gone. They're over now, but newer beauty consumers don't have that comparison to make to what the brand used to be. It's a smart move from Paula's Choice. Why waste time on consumers who are aware of the brand's hypocrisy when they can just market to a new generation of consumers who don't have the same baggage? But although the brand has undoubtedly managed to captivate a new audience, there still have been issues to face in recent years. As I mentioned, the brand's strong stance against animal cruelty was something that would come back to bite them. In March of 2024, a class action lawsuit was filed against Paula's Choice, alleging that despite despite its cruelty-free claims, the brand has submitted several products for animal testing to comply with regulations in mainland China. This was before the recent changes which relaxed those regulations further. The lawsuit claims that for a period of almost 14 years between December of 2009 and March of 2023, Paula's Choice was lying to their consumers by saying that their products were never tested on animals when in fact they were submitting products for animal testing in order to access the Chinese market. And they claim that Paula's Choice prioritizes profits over their principles. And the brand has also been accused in very recent years of fear-mongering when it comes to their stance on certain ingredients, which is so weird. Paula's Choice has long advocated against what they consider irritating ingredients like fragrance and essential oils, but some consumers and professionals have argued that their strict stance dismisses the potential benefits of the ingredients when used in safe formulations, which isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, whilst fragrance irritation is, despite what the internet tells you or what people, skincare people say, isn't one of the biggest irritants. There are other known irritants that are more in our products, like paraben alternatives, for example. I get that they still want to be a potential irritant-free brand, but if they have to do it with fragrance, I get essential oils, like fuck essential oils, but if they have to do it with fragrance, there are a lot of other ingredients they should be including, and that's what a lot of people are kind of being like, well, you can't demonize one thing and not others that have also been shown to be just as irritating or even more so than fragrance. Many also find it strange that the brand continues to maintain its ingredient dictionary and ingredient scanning function on their website, but got rid of all the product reviews that used to be on there. If you are unaware, Paula's Choice introduced Beautypedia back in 2008, and along with the ingredient dictionary and checker, it also included reviews of over 45,000 products, over 300 different brands. So it was really helpful, and the aim back then was to kind of like provide consumers with transparent and research-based information about skincare products and ingredients, and it was quite clever and truthful because it was kind of to like avoid skepticism that this was just used to promote their own products. Paula made sure that they were also promoting products from other brands if they were good quality, giving them a shout out, making them really the only brand back then actively promoting products from other brands. And this meant that their Beautypedia was considered far more trustworthy by consumers because not only were honest reviews what Paula had built her reputation on, but her own company's website gave 5-star ratings and generally positive reviews to hundreds, if not thousands, of products from their competitors. But unfortunately, if you go to the Paula's Choice website today, all those unbiased reviews are gone, completely gone, and you're just left with articles promoting the brand's own products. Of course, it's fine for brands to promote their own products, right? And not those of their competitors. That's basically what everyone does, right? But the difference is that Paula's Choice had tried hard for decades to build a reputation for providing unbiased, factual information. They want you to trust what they're telling you is the truth, and they want you to trust that their ingredient dictionary and checker are purely based on science and aren't just secretly, sneakily pushing you their own products that they want to sell you. Again, Sam perfectly sums this up in his video.
The last point I'll make, number 5, is that they still offer like an ingredient scanning app and like an ingredient dictionary. On what planet does it make sense for a skincare brand to offer their biased opinions as if it's unbiased information? Of course, they're going to slant these things to their own perception or their own ability to evaluate the facts. Why do I care how Paula's Choice interprets something? Why would you? These things exist as marketing tools for the brand. In many ways, this is essentially how clean beauty operates. Creating concern over a subset of ingredients, like Paula's Choice loves to hate on fragrance, alcohol, those sorts of things, whereas when properly designed, they're totally fine. And Paula's Choice hardly ever discusses the nuance of regulations and dose. If we go by Paula's Choice logic, their products would therefore be flawless and never cause problems for anyone. But you can look it up yourself. You will see that even their products cause issues. Some people hate the application. Some people break out from them. For some people, it triggers their rosacea and redness, all sorts of things. That's because you cannot judge ingredients in isolation. The dose, the formula, the delivery, all of that matters. And none of this context is given within any of Paula's Choice ingredient scanning apps or ingredient dictionaries. So it's all crap.
Going back to their marketing, I think their new campaign for their Pro Collagen Peptide Plumping Moisturizer moisturizer is a good example of how the brand are changing. I actually really enjoy this campaign with Olympian Iona Mars. I think she's iconic and I love the content that she herself has been creating for the campaign. But what in the Glow recipe is this campaign? This isn't Paula's Choice. This is Glow recipe. They're obviously trying very, very hard to make another one of their products other than their BHA go viral. And it's a little painful to watch this brand who didn't need these gimmicky TikTok viral kind of things in order to go viral. And their salicylic acid, their BHA is a perfect example of that. What people loved about Paula's Choice is that it's all the science and none of the fluff. And this is a very, very fluffy campaign. Literally, there's a lot of like fluffy pink. I don't hate it, but it's not Paula's Choice. I don't know if Gen Z are running it or Zillennials, but it feels a little bit millennial saying skibbity riz, you know? Regardless of the issues that early fans of Paula's Choice have with the brand's new direction, you can't argue that they are still a hugely popular and successful brand in today's beauty world. It's just that the success is now fueled more by their TikTok virality and Unilever's huge marketing budget rather than the trust and honesty that appealed to so many when the brand first launched. Of course, this video is not meant to convince you to stop buying Paula's Choice. Their products are iconic. They work. They have great products, with many of their iconic products barely changing since they were first formulated, which is probably why they are still so effective and popular. If their products work for you, which they probably do, keep using them. And if you think the prices are worth it, then absolutely keep doing what you're doing. But if you are supporting Paula's Choice because of their branding as a company based on truth and integrity, then you deserve to know that Paula's Choice isn't that brand anymore. And despite their popularity over the last few years, it seems that their unethical practices are coming back to hurt Paula's Choice, at least to some extent. When Unilever acquired the brand in 2021, they paid an estimated $2 billion, but by the end of 2024, Paula's Choice had an estimated value of $1.5 billion. That's a decline in value of 25% in just 3 years. It's hard to say what the future holds for Paula's Choice, really. While the brand remains a popular name in the skincare world, and I think forever will be, it seems that more and more consumers are starting to question the brand's actions under the Unilever ownership. Paula built this brand based on science-backed ingredients, effective formulations, and affordable products. Many are starting to question whether any of that still holds true today. Their avoidance of some ingredients is starting to be seen as outdated, fear-mongering, their newer formulations aren't seen as effective as their old formulations, and their prices are definitely no longer considered affordable. And honestly, it's kind of sad to see that after Paula spent decades educating consumers on skincare, calling out brands who are acting unethically and creating innovative, effective products, her work undoubtedly paved the way for other brands to adopt a more transparent and ethical approach and help create a more informed generation of consumers. Paula appears to really have been the driving force behind all the positive things her company stood for, and the brand slogan, "Beauty begins with truth," seems to be something she really, really believed in, and it's just sad for the rest of us that she eventually chose to sell her brand's integrity to the highest bidder.